can enjoy a rematch for last year's final. Should be a cracker.
Yep, and completing the co-host, I think Team G says, great game, topped off by a fantastic work by Caitlin Beavers. Come on, Leeds in the final. So I managed to catch a little bit of this, the crucial bit just towards the end. Obviously, the break by Beavers was, I think, that's been all over social media, and it was a great break. But obviously, it did follow possibly the worst attempt to drop goal you've ever seen in your life. But
I don't believe you. I've seen some bad ones by Richard.
Oh, it was a daisy cutter, this one. It never had a chance. But yeah, it was it was a good game, and it was I think it shows how competitive these, as you say, these top four teams are in the women's game at the moment. So yeah, I'd say it will be a cracking final, I would reckon.
Yeah, and I would also like to just say that as part of the whole fun day on Saturday, the women were the first match playing, and they got their first win, 56-6, against the Alton Raidettes. So that was good to see.
Good for them. Yeah, as I said, there's a lot of teams who are clearly building, and when you mix that in with some of these amateur teams that are still there and kind of performing well, or it's the women's game is coming on great strides, and it's brilliant to see.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So quickly, just to run through NRL, the round 16 matches. It finished Dragons 14, Storm 16, the West Tigers 16, the Roosters 24. Hall played in this one and got 222 metres. So let's hope he gets picked next week as well. Cracking game, I watched this one. Knights 20, Warriors 24, backers and forwards, but Warriors coming out on top. And Sharks 22, Broncos 24. Farnworth with 108 metres. So yeah, there we go. That is last week's games definitely talked about. And I think it's probably time now to move on to predictions for round 22 of Super League. So, predictions now for, as I say, round 22 of Super League. Just 2 games on Sky this week, and the ground will be all finished by about 9:45 on Friday night. But yeah, starting off on Thursday, 7:45 as always on Sky. It's your Hull FC taking on the London Broncos. What do you reckon?
I've gone for Hull by 14.
Yeah. It's an interesting one because it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if London came up and surprised you, but I'm gonna stick with the home team. I'm gonna say Hull by 10.
Okay.
Moving on to Friday night, first of 5 games on Friday. This is Huddersfield versus Catalan, 2 winners from last week. I'm gonna say Huddersfield. Huddersfield by 2.
Yeah, it's a tricky one to call, isn't it? Because it depends which Huddersfield turn up and which Catalans turn up.
Hey, this is what makes tipping an absolute nightmare this year.
It really does. I am going to go for Huddersfield as well, but by slightly more than you. I'm going to go for them by 8.
Okay. So on Sky, we are facing with a fixture of Leeds yet again. Leeds versus Hull KR this time. What say you?
I think that Leeds are going to continue their winning run of 1. I think Richard Agar on his press for a new contract, and they'll squeeze to a 6-point win over all the ex-Leeds players.
Parcel revenge game, isn't it? Yeah, it's an interesting one. Everything tells you that it's going to be Leeds. Playing at home, they're travelling way better. KR by 1.
Oh.
KR by 1.
Who's getting
Okay,
that
also
one?
on Friday night, first time not on television for eons apparently. So if you want to see St Helens Wigan, you have to go to the Totally Wicked. Yeah, what do you reckon, Saints Wigan?
Saints. They're gonna Saints by 18.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Until you hear otherwise, tip Saints, even against a much improved Wigan outfit. Saints, not by masses, because these things are rarely blowouts. Saints by 8. Yet again on Friday, Wakefield against Castleford. Nasty pick with this one.
This is a horrible one to pick. One of the teams is going to have to win, unless they get to 90 minutes, obviously, without winning.
Yeah.
But, that's the sad state of affairs, isn't it? They can't both lose this match. I've gone for Castleford by 2.
Yeah.
No reason at all.
No, tipped with no confidence whatsoever, but I'm going to back that up. I'm going to say Castleford by 10.
Ooh.
And finally, Warrington versus Salford.
I've gone Wire by 16. I think that they've got a bit too much for Salford.
Yeah, I agree with that one. Possibly one of the easiest ones to pick this week. Warrington by 10. Okay, championship game of the week. We've got Toronto versus Featherstone. Any strong opinion in this one?
I suspect Toronto.
Yeah, Toronto, boring. Let's move on. League One game of the week. This one definitely isn't boring. Doncaster versus Whitehaven. Any opinion? Do you want to take a stab in the dark?
I'm going with Doncaster.
Doncaster.
They're our dual reg team.
Yeah. Sod it. I'm going to go for Whitehaven. Just
Fair
to
enough.
be contrary, Mary. And for on Wednesday, State of Origin Game 3, New South Wales versus Queensland. Wednesday, reportedly at about 10 past 11, but who knows when it actually kicks off. This one down in Sydney. I've got this spectacularly wrong both games so far. So a bit of reverse psychology. I'm going to go for Queensland.
I'll go for New South Wales then.
There you go. Obviously, a slightly curtailed round of the NRL, I would guess. Panthers Titans Friday at 9 a.m. Rabbitohs Seagulls Saturday at 6 a.m. Broncos Warriors Saturday at 8:30. Roosters Cowboys Sunday at 5 a.m. for the early birds, or those with a recorder. And Dragons versus Raiders. I'll probably try and get to see that one if I can. Sunday at 10 past 9. So. Just a reminder, get your views in on anything you see, particularly, obviously, with there only been 2 games on Sky. If you go to one of the fixtures on Friday, please get in touch. But yeah, other than that, well, let's just wrap up the show. Right, so it's time for us to wrap up the show, and we've got a little quiz. So we've both done a quiz because we're not Tim, but we've decided to go with mine, just because it's right in front of me. And I have tried to keep it easy, and I've tried to theme it because it's our debut as co-hosts.
It might be our only ever venture as co-hosts together.
Exactly. So all these questions are themed around the relationship between Bradford and Hull FC.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've tried to keep them simple, or at least guessable. So anyway, question 1. 2 Super League sides are currently coached by players who've played for both FC and Bradford. Who are those coaches?
2 Super League sides, did you say?
Yes.
Hull FC. So Lee Radford, yeah.
Lee Radford, yeah, that's one.
Sorry, I was like, um, is the other one Wakefield with Chris Chester?
No,
Okay.
it was Steve McNamara.
Oh, of course, yeah. I completely forgot about him.
Matt Banana.
Yeah.
Yeah, so half a point.
Thanks.
So this next one is So between Hollisey and Bradford, who have won the most Challenge Cups?
Bradford had a habit of getting to the Challenge Cup final
And then
and
losing, yeah.
losing to St Helens in the
Yeah, we made a
early
specialty of that.
2000s.
Yeah,
Whereas Hull obviously had a habit of getting to Wembley and losing.
yes,
So we've won 5 Challenge Cups.
that's right. So your question is, have Bradford won more
More or less than 5.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for Bradford.
Yeah, Bradford have won it 6 times. But one of those was in the dim and distant past. So yeah, there you go. Bradford 6, FC 5. And the last one, I don't know how far back your knowledge goes about your team, but which winger signed for Bradford from Hull for the 1998 season? He went on to score over 100 tries for the Bulls.
That was Tavita Vicona.
It was Tavita Vicona.
He was more a centre for us than a winger.
Yeah, he was an unbelievable winger for us.
He was a victim of the Tim Wilby and David Lloyd fiasco.
There you go. But yes, he was welcomed with open arms, and I have to say, while everyone talks about Vainicolo as a winger, Tavita Vicona I think was probably the equal of him on his day. Absolutely quality player. So yeah. I thank you for him. There you go. Have you got any recommendations to make?
Well, if I'm allowed to do a forthcoming recommendation, so suggestion.
See why not?
So
our rules.
Yeah. So on Saturday, I am attending something called Z-Fest with my books, and it is a charity day for Martin House, which Don does a lot of fundraising for.
He does.
And it's at the Lord Gascoigne pub in Garforth in Leeds. So if anyone is free, there's lots of music and other things going on. So come and see me if you are free.
Sorry, when's that? On Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay. That is literally where I live, so it would be rude of me not to.
It would be rude of me not to, yeah. Between 11 a.m. and 10 p.m.
Oh, wow, okay. You're there all day. Okay.
I am.
Okay, brilliant. Okay. I was racking my brains because my life's really boring at the moment.
Your life or your wife?
My life.
Okay, sorry.
Just to be very clear, Jesus Christ, don't be getting me in trouble.
Sorry.
To be fair, at this stage, she's definitely not listening to it at this point. But
my husband didn't listen to any of it.
Definitely life. Although that's partly her fault. No, I'm joking. No, so the only thing I could really think of was I've been watching a series. It's a BBC Three thing, but it's been on BBC One late on a Monday, I think. It's called Hometown.
Okay.
And it's about a journalist who goes back to Huddersfield, who investigates a story that was in the news here about a shooting of a guy that was certainly hit the local news, and it ends up being quite an interesting investigation into how the town's changed and connections to the drug trade and that kind of stuff. So it's a 6-part kind of half-hour documentary film, quite interestingly made. So yeah, Hometown it's called if you're interested in that kind of thing.
Sounds good.
Okay, so coming up, Mark and Tim are back in the hot seat. So they're away for 3 months, and then it's only a week.
Yep.
But yeah, so they're back in the podcast chair next week. So you can find the chair at messed that up, haven't I? I definitely shouldn't do
Yeah.
this again. So yes, so you can find the show at Super League Pod on Twitter and Instagram, facebook.com/Super League Pod, superleaguepod@gmail.com if you want to send us emails about